Hello everyone, and welcome back to our video series of using certain Google products to create a virtual reality environment in your classroom. This is going to be one of my favorite ones now is Google Tour Creator. Because again, like a lot of us, we were really excited a couple years ago when Expeditions came out, but then the thought was, well, how can I make my own Expeditions? Because there were certain things I would love to have done and it wasn't on Expeditions, and just was kind of sparked more interest. So about a year ago, Google created what was known as Google Tour Creator, which now gives you the possibility to create pretty much your own virtual reality experiences for your students, depending on your content area. But again, unfortunately, it's still pretty much relegated to if you could connect your curriculum to anything you can find on Google Maps in terms of a 360 street view photograph, or if you take your own 360 photos, which we're going to get to a little bit in Module 5, okay? Because you can import your own 360 photos into this Tour Creator, all right? So basically, let's get started. Click on this link called Tour Creator, and here it is, just vr.google.com/Tour Creator. That's the website. And the first time you log in, you're going to go to Get Started. And it's going to probably ask you which Google account you want, but I went right to my personal one for now. And you can see I already have a few tours here that I've created that I use with my students. Okay, some of them published, some are drafts and so forth. The Washington shouldn't be a draft, but I'm going to actually just show you a little bit of it. I'm going to view the published tour for you, and it's the one that I created. So I have scenes, and my students read a book called Washington's Crossing, which is about Washington crossing the Delaware and the Battle of Trenton. And I really wanted to kind of bring that virtual experience to my students so they can really look at these places today and how they actually look in terms of the visuals with this book. So I made this particular tour, and I'm going to put it in full screen, which you can see how you can not even use this without the VR glasses and so forth. So again, I'm looking at the actual tour, which is really kind of neat, and I can scroll around. And this is a 360 photograph that I found of the visitor center at Washington's Crossing, like museum, I guess you want to call that. And I've added this point of interest, which is actually a clip from the quote from a book that I actually took a screenshot of that quote, so they can actually be aware of that and understand it, which is really kind of awesome. I'm not sure if my voice is playing right now in the background or not while I explain this, because I have my microphone on. But when you're on, let's see if I can just go to the audio here and turn that on. Let me just turn this, go back to the smaller screen view here, and turn narration on. Early on Christmas morning, the American camps along the Delaware River began to stir. Clouds of white smoke rose from kitchen fires where the women of the Army were hard at work with orders to prepare 3 days' rations ready cooked. Company officers and sergeants were instructed to see that every man had arms, accoutrements, and ammunition. So I'm gonna pause that there. So that's actually my recording of my voice that I brought into this point of interest. And if students click on this, even with their viewers, that would go on automatically, which is pretty, I think, kind of neat. So that was my one point of interest for that one. And then I went through different scenes here. This was like something called McConaughey's Ferry, which is important if you read the book. And I give you a screenshot of a map from the book that I took, where this is actually where it is on the Delaware River. There's McConaughey's Ferry. Which was, I think, kind of interesting for the students to kind of go through. This was just the house where McConaughey lived in, which was in the book itself, so they can actually see it. Here's the actual crossing area where there is a bridge, which obviously wasn't there in 1776, but they can kind of see that. Then I actually take them on the bridge, and then I have two scenes of interest here. I may only have one, I apologize. There it is. So this is the famous painting that we discuss a lot in the book, and I give you the information about the painting and who the painting was by. So that's kind of I think a neat shot of that. And then the next scene is actually from the shore side of the New Jersey side, and you can kind of see this particular scene of how it might have looked from a different perspective. Different sort of boat, more of a realistic depiction of the crossing. And this just goes on through the town of Trenton, where I give them a lot of different scenes of where things are happening, and I have maps embedded of where this road still exists today, where it was back then. Some of the monuments inside the town of Trenton where the battle took place. Maps and so forth. This was actually the headquarters of the original building of a man named Colonel Rahl. Then I give them the original sketch. That's the exact same building. Here's another different painting of this building in that painting. So again, trying to, bring a lot of those aspects to them in terms of bringing a virtual reality experience to this book that we're reading. Okay, so I thought that was kind of a fun one that we really enjoyed working on together. Now, some other ones I can go to, like we do a lot with Flags of Our Fathers. We had Mexican-American War one and so forth. So that's, I had some variety. I just started doing that this year. So how do you actually make your own tour? Okay, so I'm going to click on New Tour here, and it gives you this thing. I'm going to call it just my VR sample. Okay, and I can give a description right here. I can add a cover photo to it. I'm going to select an image, and I'm actually going to, let's see, I'm going to go to my drive because I have a folder ready to go with all this stuff so you guys can kind of see it here. Let me open up that folder, VR examples, and I'm just going to take this particular picture, which is a famous one from the Battle of Gettysburg. I can give a description here. I can give a category or where it falls into, like history and so forth, or anything you want to do. Now, it says about Google Expeditions. I'm going to come back to that. You can get your own tours that you make actually onto Expeditions, which is really kind of neat. So you'll see how that will actually work. So I'm going to create it. And now what you see here, it brings up sort of a version of Google Street View that you might use when you're actually searching for maps. Okay, and then there's a little Pegman. You can move him around, which I'll get to momentarily. So I can search for places. So I'm going to search for Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Okay, and now it brings me into some museum or some art shop in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. So I'm going to kind of like zoom in here a little bit. But see, the minute I click on Pegman, I can move them around. The minute I do that, anything that's a blue line is a street view, and anything that's a little sphere, someone just took their own, sort of 360 photo and upload it to Google, which you can definitely do. So you can kind of like, scroll around here and see where you want to like drop Pegman. Now I know that I need to bring Pegman down, and sometimes it's a little bit tough with this map. But I know that I need to bring Pegman down a little bit, and I need to go to Devil's Den, because that's, whoops, I think I went out a little bit too far here. Let me bring this down. If you just kind of control and click, you can move that around, and then you kind of control, click, and you're with, or your mouse, not control, click, use your mouse pad or your mouse or your trackpad to press down while you move Pegman around a little bit. I can move the map, and I can move Pegman. So sometimes on this view, it does get a little tough. Sometimes Pegman gets a little lost. But I'm going to go down here, and I'm pretty sure this is where I'm close to where I want to be. Nope, that's not where I want to be. Let me just drop Pegman in this vicinity. Okay, and I'm going to kind of scroll in a little bit. And there's Devil's Den. And I know that if I go to a certain shot in Devil's Den, I can kind of find one that might match my photo really well. And there it is. Okay, so I know this is a great, great photograph. It's actually even a better one. Because what I did was I actually went on Google Maps and did this first, which is actually a little bit of a tip because it's a little easier to manipulate it. And then once you know where things are on Google Maps, it's the exact same thing here. Then you can kind of get a better sense of what you're actually trying to do. There we go. I think that's the one I actually really wanted. Yes, that is the one I really wanted. Okay. So I'm going to take this. Okay, I'm going to then go click down here in the bottom right and say Add Scene. So I just put this scene in my Google Photo, and I can pick a starting point where I want people to actually view this photo. I'm going to click this as my starting view. Okay, I'm going to save it. All right, and then I can give this scene a title, and I'm going to call this Devil's Den, which is what it is. Devil's Den. Sometimes the location will come up automatically, sometimes it won't. I really don't get myself too concerned about that. I could type in a whole description here, about 500 characters. I can type some credits in here. But what's really nice, I could also add in ambient audio, or I can add in a narration. Now, so if I had audio, I got to actually select an MP3 file, which gets a little bit frustrating because if you had an audio file, it would have to be MP3. Now, I have two narrations here. I had some music set up. I forgot it was saved as an M4A. So whatever you do with music, it has to be downloaded as an MP3 file, and that would actually be background music that would play when this scene comes up, which I think is really kind of neat. So I'm just going to cancel that for now. But what's really fun here is down here I can add a point of interest. So I'm actually going to click right here, and I'm going to hit a point of interest, and I'm going to move this point of interest right here. See this little blue dot? Now, you can add a title to this point of interest, and I'm going to call it historical photo. I can give a description of it. I can then also get my image. And this is going to be an image that's going to pop up when they view it, and they're going to be able to see this image pop up on their scene. You can kind of move it a little bit, but you can see I pretty much got almost the exact same spot. I think there's a better one here, but that's good enough for now. So here's the scene today. Here's the historical image, and I can add a narration. Now, I already had something I already pre-recorded just using my phone, and I called it this one. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to open it up. It's going to add that to it. So now I got a little like audio interest there. Now I'm over here. I'm gonna just add another little point of interest off to the side. Maybe let's move it over here a little bit, and I'm gonna title this point of interest newspaper article. It's actually an historical newspaper, but that's fine for now. And I'm going to add an image to it. Select an image. I got this newspaper article ready to go, and I also had. I could kind of move that a little bit. And I also had some narration that I pre-recorded as well. I'm going to select an audio file. And the news. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to add it. So now that has a little bit of a narration. Okay, and now if I really wanted to go through, I can go ahead and go add a scene, and that's it. So what I can do now is I can go back to if I really was ready for it, I would hit publish. It's going to publish to this website called Poly. Or I can just go to my samples now. Here's my samples, still in draft mode. And, didn't want to delete that. Okay, sorry. I really wanted to view it. Let's see, tour options, sorry about that. I want to actually view it as a option so you can kind of see what it is. So maybe I can't do that until I actually publish it. So that's fine, I'll publish it for now. And I'll make it unlisted because I don't really want anybody to see it. I'll publish it. Doesn't take very long for it to be published. And now it does give you a website so you can actually view it on the Google kind of VR website, but I'm going to come back to that point. So I'm going to go view tour. So here's a tour that we just made. It's the first scene. All right, and I'm going to click over here and turn narration on. And if I click on this,
in this famous Civil War photograph, we see a young man sacrifice his life for the Union cause. While that is a tragedy, this photograph is even more tragic because this photograph was also staged by the photographer. This young man was seen, unfortunately, dead in many different Civil War shots. The photographers moved his body and posed his body at different sites throughout the battlefield for more dramatic effect. Another insight as to why this photograph is staged is the musket carefully placed at a perfect angle against the rocks. Firearms were rarely left on the battlefield, especially 3 to 4 days later when this photograph was taken.
Okay, so there's my little take on that, right? Now, the other point of interest I had was over here was that newspaper article.
In the winter of 1855 to 56, General Hood entered upon the frontier service of West.
I'm going to pause it so you get the point. So I added the newspaper article, we added the photo, and we added some really cool narration. All right, now, what you can do is, if you like this now VR sample will appear on your own Expeditions app if you're logged into the same Google account. So you can actually view this within Expeditions. Okay, so that's one way you can view it in a VR experience. Another way you can actually share it And you can copy the link. And now when I do this, I copy the link and I can put it on my website, or I could put it on Schoology. I'm going to show you some examples later, because I even had my students make these and they were absolutely awesome. So we'll look at that in the next module. So you could put it right on Schoology, all right, which is really kind of fun. Or you can hit the embed code, and you can actually put this on a actual website, and it would kind of be embedded right on a website. And I use Google Sites a lot for Google projects. I think that's the next class I'm doing. But anyway, and I'll show you how students embedded them on websites, which is, again, another really cool example. But how can you get this onto a phone so students can kind of see it? Now, one way we did was we copied this link, and what I did is that I went to a QR code generator, one of the ones that we've been using now that the school has unblocked. Let me just find it here. I thought I had it as a quick little extension. Let me just... I apologize. Here, it was actually a website, and the website that the school now is using is the-qrcode-generator.com. And I'll try to put that maybe in the comments here. But here we go. So you can actually now take this and you can do a URL, and now you can put that URL in there. And now the students, you can just basically right-click on this, either save it or copy this image someplace. And now students can actually just take their cell phones, and now they can scan that, and now that QR code will actually appear right on their phones. So right now I brought my phone up on the screen, and basically all I did was open my camera app, and I'm going to scan that QR code. And you can see right now that this little thing appears on my phone called poly.google.com. I just click on that, and now it will bring up this. There's our tour. There it is, VR sample, and looks really cool. And now I can just now hit my cardboard symbol. Let me bring this in full screen now for you. I can enter VR mode, and it says click on enter it again. And now that tour that we just made can now be put into your viewer. And I can just click, and now the students can look around. And I don't know if I have my audio up all the way. Let me just make sure I do, because I'm pretty sure. Sorry about that. Let me just, yep, I got my media up all the way. Okay, so let me go back to the full screen here, and I can hit the cardboard symbol, enter VR mode. And here we go. And now if I click on that point of interest, I could click on the historical photo. Easier if I had it in my viewer. Let's see if I can do this out. I didn't really want to put it in my viewer right now. Trying to click on that. Here we go. And my narration should play unless I had narration off. I might have had narration off. But it would have worked if I had narration on. So I think if I can go to the settings, well, there it is. I got to turn narration on all the time. Always forget about that. Go to my viewer, enter VR mode. It's going to take a second. And if I click on that, click on the sites and so forth, the Devil's Den. I can click on this.
In this famous Civil War photograph, we see a young man.
So there it was. The narration works. There's the other point of interest. And that's how students can now view this on their phones. All right, so hope that wasn't too much. We'll look at a little bit later how actually I could probably do that right now for you, but if I actually went into my Google Expeditions app, I won't go through it right now, but you would actually see that tour also on Expeditions because I liked it. All right, and if students were in their own, they liked it as well, it would also appear in their Expeditions app when they were actually got that tour on their phone. So either by liking it, it could be in Expeditions, or you could just use the QR code and you're all set. All right, so hope that was interesting and fun, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what everybody creates. All right, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.